Good evening, students. A very good evening to all of you. So first and foremost, students, very quickly I'll just tell you, last 2 hours students is left now. In fact, just under last 2 hours. And you can see students herein. %. Can you see this timeline, students? The timeline, students, is in front of you. 30th of June being the last particular date for this 20% discount on all the CA level subscription, be it CPT, be it inter CA, or be it final CA. You will get a flat 20% discount, students, on the Unacademy subscription. The only thing that you need to do, students, would be that you will have to take up the referral code. You have to put up the referral code CADS so as to unlock this 20% off on the subscription. Students, since the time is premium, I will suggest to all of you, please quickly let your juniors, colleagues, relatives, and anyone who are doing CA know about the same, and let them take up this particular price advantage. So I will say it's less than 2 hours, students. So therefore, just let them know about it and tell them that in the referral code they need to put CADS to unlock this 20%. With that, students, Prem, good evening. Let's start with this now. Now, students, today only I understand. It was also very hectic for me as well. Last 2 days, isn't it? So, as I told you, from day after tomorrow, it will get eased out. Only one lecture. So, you'll have only one lecture. So that now our job is to complete that assessment part. Our job is now to complete the assessment part, students. So that next lecture I'll start with PGP. Next lecture I'll start with PGP. Prem, any query that you have in this particular part? Additional evidence in this cricket? Now, apart from, I think, students, we have done till question number 248. Recall, review, and rectify. Recall, review, and rectify. We have done up till here. So now we are into this one. This is important. This is very important, students. And this concept was also there in the APA. I'll tell you how it was. Students, please read the question first. Examination question. An assessment completed by the assessing officer was set aside by the ITAT. Was set aside by the ITAT. On which date, students? On 30th of Jan 2015. With a specific direction to re-examine the certain disallowances. Students, you may be aware that the ITAT is the final fact-finding authority. All of you will agree to this. That the ITAT is the final fact-finding authority, isn't it? And the fact that the ITAT is a final fact-finding authority, all the question of facts is decided at the ITAT level. Many a time, students, what happens is that due to the absence of proper facts, the facts are not that sufficient. The ITAT therefore is not in a position to give its judgment. The ITAT, students, is not in a position to give its judgment, students. And because that the ITAT is not in a position to give its judgment properly, therefore, do you know what the ITAT does? It remands back the case back to the assessing officer. It remands back the case back to the assessing officer. Now, the remand back from the ITAT, students, if you see, it is of two types. When you talk about remanding back the case, that becomes of two types. Which is the two types? I'll tell you, students. I'll let you know. ITAT is remanding the case before the assessing officer. Now, what did I told you, students? Remanding is of two types. One is with specific direction to the AO, and second is or without any specific direction. So one is with specific direction and another is without specific direction. Did you all got this one, students? Copy it up clear. Now, if it is with specific direction, the question is, can the assessing officer, while he is getting an opportunity to reassess or to do the assessment based on the direction given by the ITAT, does the assessing officer in the first case, does the assessing officer in the first case does the assessing officer, students, in the first case, can he do what? Can he reassess on any other point which are not covered in the direction? Can he reassess on any other point which is not covered in the direction, students? What is your take? Can he do that? Is my question to all of you. Can he do a reassessment on any other point which is not there in the specific direction given by the ITAT? To that the answer is, students, no. That particular power is not available before the ITAT. Did you all got this one? That particular power, students, is not available to the ITAT in this case. Did you all got this one? So what you will say over here? So point number one. So with specific direction to the assessing officer. Specific direction to the assessing officer. So this is the point. Please take a note of it. The AO cannot assess or reassess on any matter other than those covered in the specific direction. And how about this one, students? Without any specific direction, what we are going to say about this? So if it is without any specific direction, students, then in that particular case, can the AO in this particular case assess or reassess any other matter? Can he do this reassessment on any matter? And the answer is yes. The AO can assess or reassess any matter. Any matter. That exactly is a game. That exactly is a game, students. Are you all through with this? Say, students. Now, be careful, students. Why I'm told you in APA this point came. I don't know whether you are aware of APA or not. In the APA student, there is a concept of rollback. All of you are aware of rollback, isn't it? Now students, supposingly this situation is there for one of the year, be careful students, for one of the year which falls in the rollback period, this is a situation. What is the situation? The situation is, now before that, just hold on. Let me first tell you the provision and then I will come to this point. Students, the law says that if for any of the rollback year, if the ITAT has already given its order, for any of the rollback year, if the ITAT has already given its order, then in that particular case, can the rollback be undertaken? Can the rollback be undertaken for that particular year? Answer is no. Answer is no, students. If ITAT for any of the rollback has given its decision, then for that particular year you cannot do the rollback. For other years you can, but for that year the rollback is not allowed. This is the provision of law, students. This is not my provision. This is a provision of law. Okay. Now see the twist. Supposingly for any of the year in the rollback period, the ITAT has remanded the case back to the assessing officer. Supposingly for any of the year in the rollback period, the ITAT has remanded the case back to the assessing officer. And the way it was remanded back is something like this, the way it is covered over here. The way it was remanded back, students, it was something like this, the way you can see it here in front of you. So how it was being remanded? Point number 1, there was a specific direction that was given to the AO. Okay, there was some specific direction that was being given to the AO. So students, if the ITAT has given some specific direction to the AO, then it is as good as the ITAT has passed the order, which implies that the rollback cannot be done for that particular year. It means what, students? ITAT has already passed the order, which means the rollback cannot be done for that particular year. But if what? If the ITAT has not given any specific direction and has simply remanded the case back to the AO, then whether the rollback can be done for that particular year, to that the answer is yes, it can be. So right here, students, very important for examination. Have you all copied on this one, students? All of you? Please write. Important for exam, please write below, students. If, right here, if the ITAT has given, any specific direction to the AO for any of the rollback period, then for that year, the SSE cannot do the rollback. The SSC cannot do the rollback if the ITAT has given any specific direction to the AO for any of the rollback period. Then for that year, the SSC cannot do the rollback of the APA. And here, students, rollback can be done. Rollback can be done. Just write only this much, that is sufficient. Rollback can be done here. In the bracket, if you want to write, you can write here. In the bracket, you can write, friends, a specific direction of the ITAT implies that what does it imply? That the ITAT has effectively decided the case. A specific direction for remand back. Students, write like this. A specific direction for remand back. A specific direction for remand back of the ITAT I hope that all of you are clear with this one now. Every one of you. Are you clear with this one, students? Can we proceed? So let's proceed, students, now in this particular case. Have you copied down this or not, students? So let's proceed, students, now in this regard. So students, now there is one more question about this one, very popular question. Very popular. Question 246. Question 246. Monetary bar, that I have done already. In the last lecture only, Prem, I did this question 246. If you cross the monetary threshold, that does, because of, the department, what we discussed in 246, the department who is there, students, be careful. The department, students, are the maximum litigant of the cases. And because they are the maximum litigant of the cases, students, you should be aware of this particular point. You all should be aware of this particular point. Because the department is the maximum litigant of the cases, the government, in order to reduce the litigation and to save on the litigation cost, what the government did? The government has created the monetary thresholds. That if the income tax department wants to file an appeal, then in that particular case, they need to cross that particular monetary threshold. That is to say, if the department wants to file before the ITAT, then this should be the monetary threshold. If they want to file the case before the High Court, then this should be the monetary threshold. Same as with the Supreme Court. Now, supposingly, in the case of Mr. X, the department has lost the case before the CIT appeal in respect of the allowability of deduction, say deduction X. So they have lost the case before the CIT appeal in respect of the deduction X, deduction of the expenditure X. Now they want to file an appeal. Students, now they want to file an appeal, and the appeal that they want to file is before the ITAT. But unfortunately, they are not crossing that monetary threshold, which is required for them to file an appeal before the ITAT. So the tax effect which is there is not significant enough for them to enable to file the case before the ITAT. For them to enable the case before the ITAT. Okay. So what is the implication of this issue? So if the department could not file the case before a particular forum because of the tax effect, does it imply that they will not be in a position to appeal on the same issue in any other assessee's case? Does it imply that they will not be in a position to appeal on the same issue in any other assessee's case? Does it imply that they will not be in a position to appeal on the same issue in assessee's own case in the subsequent year? Does it imply this? Answer is no. It does not imply this. Why it doesn't imply this? Because the department has not accepted the defeat. The department wanted to agitate, but the fact that the monetary threshold was not significant enough for them to file an appeal. The monetary threshold was not significant for them to file an appeal, but that does not imply that they have accepted their defeat. Is that clear to all of you, students? And that exactly is the point. So with this now, let's come to this particular part of question number 250, students. And what is this question 250? As you can see over here, question 250, students. A petition for stay. It stops means? A petition for stay of demand was filed before the ITAT. By Yeah, we have covered from that session. That's true. We have covered from 246 in this session. So in this case, students, question 250. So students, as you all know, the delay, like there is a concept of the recovery. Students, as you all know, that whenever the income tax authority passes an order, apart from that, they will also serve upon you a notice of demand. Isn't it? And because of that reason, students, the notice of demand has been served. So therefore, students, a notice of demand, be careful, is also served upon the assessee. A notice of demand, students, is also served upon on the assessee. Do you all agree to this? Notice of demand is also served upon by the assessee, students. Do you all agree to this or not? And by virtue of the notice of demand, students, do you know what happens? Within the 30 days period, I need to make the payment. If I don't make the payment, I will be considered as an assessee in default. And then on me, recovery will start. Then, students, on me, the recovery will start. Hi, Dheeraj, how are you doing? Long time. Yes, indeed, it's a very long time. Kya chal raha, Dheeraj? What's happening? So at least this open forum is good in terms of YouTube live lectures and all. At least it gives an opportunity to catch up with the old students. So students, in this particular context, students, what did I told you? I have told to all of you students that the assessee needs to pay within 30 days, or else he will be considered as an assessee in default. He will be considered as what? As an assessee in default, isn't it? And if he is considered as an assessee in default, students, then you all are aware of the consequence. Then students, all of you are aware of the consequence. The recovery will start. So to ensure that the recovery does not start while the assessee is already in an appeal, while the assessee is already in an appeal, what the assessee does? Assessee takes a stay. ओके धीरज, रिजल्ट तो धीरज 15 के आसपास की बात चल रही है. देखो भी कब आता है. 15 के आसपास की बात हो रही है, लेकिन स्टडी करते रहना, टच में रहना, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. ठीक है ना, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. So students, while he is filing an appeal, while he has filed an appeal, students, while he has filed an appeal, he also wants to put a stay on the recovery. He also wants to put a stay on recovery, students. Do you all agree? And therefore, students, what happens in this case? In this particular case, students, what happens is this, that the assessee first, for the first appeal, students, for the first appeal that he has to file before the CIT appeal, he will then make an application of stay. Do you know with whom he have to make an application of stay? When he have to file the appeal before the CIT appeal, the application of the stay that he has to give is not to the CIT appeal. The stay application he will have to give to the assessing officer himself, who has given him the notice of demand. So when the assessee has gone for the appeal before the CIT appeal, then at the same time he also needs to put a stay on the recovery, and to put a stay on the recovery, he will make an application, and the application will be made before the CIT appeal. Before the CIT appeal. Okay, Dheeraj. But don't fear anything. Don't worry, students. My suggestion to all of you is that you people are unnecessarily worrying about new and old. It wasn't that difficult paper also. So don't worry much. Just give your very best. Don't think much of something which is in future, which something nobody can control. So my only suggestion would be that just don't also underestimate your own self. Don't also underestimate your preparation, because many a times we underestimate ourselves and we are not in a position to make a rational judgment. So just at this point of time, every one of you are in a proper frame of mind. So you should just make a rational call, rational judgment, and do the best, give your very best, and leave everything to the Almighty. Akshay, today we'll be done with the assessment, and then next lecture, Akshay, which is on Saturday, you will be starting with PGBP and all the practical questions on the compiler. So in terms of the timelines, if you're talking about it, I'm targeting 20th of January. Targeting 20th of January to get it completed. Sorry, 20th of July. 20th of July to get it completed. Got this one? So that is the point in which the things are to be considered. Fine, students. All the best. So students, in this particular context, what I told you, the first appeal you will file before the CIT appeal, but the stay application you will not give to the CIT appeal. The stay application, students, you will give it to whom? The stay application you will give it to whom? To the assessing officer. Okay. Now supposingly, students, before the CIT appeal, you have lost the case. Before the CIT appeal, you have lost the case. And if before the CIT appeal, if you have lost the case, then what happens now? The stay that has been given to you by the AO, that stay will get vacated. And if the stay get vacated, then what happens? The recovery will start. Now the assessee wants to fight this case before the ITAT. Now the assessee wants to fight the case, students, before the ITAT, because the assessee did not got the remedy before whom? Before the CIT appeal. So he lost the case, and now he wants to fight the case before the ITAT. But at the same time, the recovery proceedings which was stayed has now come alive in consequence of the decision of the CIT appeal. So now what is the remedy? Now what is the remedy available in this particular case? So the remedy that is available in this particular case is, again students, be careful. The remedy that is available in this particular case is this, that he can make an application of stay. Now before whom he will now make the application of stay? So now the application of stay will have to be made before whom? Before the ITAT. So here appeal filed before the ITAT, stay application before the ITAT. But in the previous level, appeal filed before the CIT appeal, but the stay application was before whom? Before the assessing officer. This is the point that you should keep in mind. But hold on. If you want to make an application before the ITAT, ITAT will not accept your application unless you make a pre-deposit of the payment of the demand raised by the department, and that pre-deposit amount is 20%. That is 20%, students. You need to make a pre-deposit. Once you make the pre-deposit, the stay will be granted by the ITAT. Now, the stay granted by the ITAT is for 180 days. Now, this 180 days can be extended further, and the total period, including the extension, should not go beyond 365 days. The total period of stay, including the extension given by the ITAT, should not go beyond 365 days or 1 year. That is the provision. Okay. Now here something has happened in this question. Please have a look in the examination. All of you. Are you all through with this one, friends? So students, now then, if you all are through with this one, students, so you can see it over here very clearly. What the AO did was incorrect, students. What the AO did in this case is completely incorrect. And why I say so? You can see here is this, that within 180 days, that first 180 days only, the AO has liquidated the bank guarantee, which is actually a security, to the extent of 20%. So tell me one thing, in this case, was the SSC in fault that the ITAT could not give the judgment within that 180 days period? Answer is no. So if the SSC is not at fault for the ITAT not giving the judgment in 180 days period, then the SSC had every right to get the extension up to 365 days. But the department, in fact, has denied the SSC their right of extension, and instead has went ahead arbitrarily to liquidate the bank guarantee and recover their money. Such action on the part of the assessing officer, therefore, is not tenable in law. Tenable in law means not acceptable in law, and that exactly is the point. So just read this much, that should be sufficient. Are you all through with this one, students? So that is the point. Now, students, next section is section 264. If you remember, in the last lecture, we have discussed the doctrine of merger. Remember that? In the doctrine of merger, I gave you two compartment. Two compartment means in one compartment it was a partial merger, and the one compartment it was a complete merger. And in the case of the partial merger, it is covered in 263. The revisionary power of the CIT is restricted only in those matters, which is not made as a subject matter of appeal. So the items which are made as a subject matter of appeal, on that the CIT will not revise. But on the any other matter, the CIT has very right to revise the order of the AO on those matters. Students. Now, coming on the other particular point. Students. And what is the other particular point? The other point is the doctrine of complete merger, 264. What is complete merger? That is, if in a particular order on any one particular point, if on any one particular point the AO goes and file an appeal, the assessing officer is going, the assessee is going and filing of the appeal. So tell me one thing, if he has already went on any one matter in the appellate forum, then whether the CIT under section 264, can he exercise the jurisdiction on the remaining matters? Can he revise the order of the AO on the remaining matters under section 264? To that the answer is no, because section 264 employs what? Employs the doctrine of complete merger. Now if you see over here, students, in this case what has happened? In one of the case, students, over here, they went into the appeal, and on the other particular matter in the same order of the AO, they want to go to section 264 before the commissioner, wanting him to exercise his revisionary power. Can the CIT under 264, can he exercise his revisionary power on a particular matter where the other matter in the order is in the appeal? To that the answer is no, because the doctrine of complete merger is what is applicable under section 264. I hope that every one of you are clear. So these two are on the similar lines. Now, students, term limit, I'm not dealing with this one. It is a simpler one. So I'm not touching on the term limit part, students, in this context. Okay. Coming on question 254 now. This is an important question, although it is based on the case law. Students, you should just understand on this particular point. See, students, what happens in the case of 263? Revision under section 263. The sequence is very important. And what is the sequence, students? The sequence is like this, that, see, AO would have passed the order. AO would have passed the order. Take any section, 143. Thereafter, after the AO has passed the order, students, thereafter what has happened? After the AO has passed the order, students, thereafter what has happened? The 263 should, if the commissioner wants to exercise, the revisionary power, then what he needs to do? He need to examine the record available to him, and then should come to a conclusion after examination should come to the conclusion that the order of the AO is erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of revenue. PIR is what, friends? Prejudicial to the interest of revenue. So after the examination should come to the conclusion that the order of the AO is erroneous, and then he should give the show cause notice. Issue a show cause notice. Okay. So students, the record should be available at this point of time. The bottom line therefore of this question which was asked in the examination, record should be available at this stage. The question therefore is that students, after the show cause notice has been issued, can the CIT exercise the power to generate new record over here? New records. Can he exercise the power to generate new record at this stage? And the answer is no. Whatever is the record that is available at that stage, the second point, that is only that he can consider. In fact, on that particular record, if he wants to give, because obviously he may not have examined students everything, whatever was available, he may have examined only few things. So based on that few things, he can definitely give the notice. Is that clear to all of you? Based on that particular few things, he can definitely go ahead and give the notice. That is the point. Now, in that particular case, students, in this particular case, be careful. He cannot but, say for example, subsequently, he again examines that record. Which record? The record which was there over here. But he could not do the examination at that particular point of time. So later on he does that examination again. So on the examination again later on this record, can he again give a show cause notice? Why not? That record should have been there. The evidences should have been there, and he just need to do what? He just need to do the examination. But there can never be a situation that after he has started the proceedings by issuing a show cause notice, something new is sought to be generated. And how a new could be sought to be generated? Maybe this CIT would have exercised the power of survey. He would have told that do the survey, more thing will come out. And that is what he is doing. So therefore the greed is very high. And because of that greed, what these people do? Do you know what these people do? Initially, when they start the proceedings by giving the show cause notice, these people have got some expectation. That this much will come out. But then when the proceeding is going by, they are getting disappointed, and they will come to know that no, we will not be getting that amount that we were anticipating. So what they do a survey then and try to get more details, more evidence against the SSC, so that in respect of that he can prove that what the AO did is an erroneous action and it is prejudicial to the interest of revenue, and therefore we are giving them again a new show cause notice. So students, the position of law is very clear. The law says that no, the record would be those which are available to the commissioner at the time of his examination, and on that basis, on the basis of those records, he can definitely give a show cause notice further. But there can never be a situation where the CIT, after he has issued the show cause notice, issues what students? Issued say 133A power or exercises 133A power so as to collect more evidence against the SSC and thereafter pass the order. This sort of action is completely students what? Not as per the law. It is not as per the law. Is that clear to all of you, students? So if you can just very quickly, students, deal with this quickly. So what he is doing, students, during the pendency of the proceedings before the commissioner on the basis of material gathered during survey under 133A, after issue of the first notice, the Commissioner of Income Tax issued a second notice. Now the second notice is on what basis? On the basis of the material which you have gathered during the survey after the first notice was given. And I told you generally what happens, why these second notices are being given, because in between the commissioner would have went ahead for the gatheration of the more records, more evidences against the SSC, because the expectation may not have met. If you all are through with this, students, let's proceed further. Students. Now this is remedies and time limits, which has been there. It's a simple question. Question 255 is a simple question, students, which can be easily done by all of you. Question 255. Now students, this you can skip. This was, I actually gave a last to last attempt. The examination question of last to last attempt, students, this is what I have targeted in this case, in this compiler. Vijay Gupta versus CIT, Delhi High Court 2016. The beauty of this case law was that it was not even there in the ICI module, but still they went ahead and they have targeted this question. Anyway, doesn't matter. They don't repeat the case law, students. So you can just leave this particular question altogether. Or if you have got still an interest to read it, only read it once. But just the case, okay? Only read it once if you have any interest on the same. We come to our next particular chapter, which is the recovery proceedings, students. And as I told you, after recovery proceedings, I am switching over to after recovery proceedings, students. I already told to all of you, students, I will be thereafter switching over to BGP. BGP, students. Fine. Now, students, I already gave you the background on this particular point. I already have given you the background. Now there are some important provisions, important aspect on the recovery part, which I'll just let you know. Students, AO would have passed the order. Order is passed. The AO, students, has passed the order. Thereafter, once the order is passed, students, notice of demand also would be given. And I already told you, the moment you give a notice of demand, it starts the recovery proceedings. It starts the recovery proceedings, students. Do you all get this one? So order is passed plus notice of demand. Once the notice of demand is given, it will start the recovery proceedings. After that, students, what happens? Obviously, I told you, within 30 days, if there is a non-payment, then assessee in default. Within 30 days, if there is a non-payment, then assessee in default. And if you are an assessee in default, then, students, if you are an assessee in default, students, as you all are aware, what happens? You should be aware of that, students. The financial consequence of interest would be there. Penalty would be there. Okay, these are the financial consequences. Interest and penalty. Apart from that, students, the other important consequence is attachment of. Attachment of what, students? Attachment of the movable and immovable property. These are the important, students. These are the important consequence on the recovery side. Whenever you turn as an assessee in default, there are financial consequences like an interest and the penalty, but more importantly, students, the attachment of movable and immovable property take place. Now, students, the questions are very simple and straightforward so far as the recovery chapter is concerned. It's a very simple and straightforward chapter. There is not much of this thing. Like, you don't have to try to rack your brains on the same. It would be quite simple in terms of its interpretation, and the things will go normally. Consider this, students. This is a classic MCQ question, students, which has been there. Question number 257. This is a classic MCQ question. Notice of demand under section 156. Yeah, we can just quickly run through it once because it has been targeted. The next question is the most important one, and many of them would not have understood the next question. It's a beautiful question. But still over here, notice of demand under section 156 for rupees 1 lakh is issued by the AO on 23rd of March 2021 and is received by the assessee on 25th of March, students. So, the assessee pays the demand of rupees 1 lakh on 29th of July 2021. Now students, from which date to which date? So it's a service of the notice of demand. So unless and until I am getting a service of the notice of demand, how is it that I am going to know that I need to pay? And that's quite logical. Unless and until that I have been given the notice, unless and until I have received the notice, then how is it that I come to know that I have to pay? And therefore that this particular concept has been introduced. Students, as per this particular concept, what we will say? We shall say that the interest would be counted from the date the service has been made. So the date when the service has been made, the date needs to be counted. And if that be the case, if you can see over here, 25th is the date when he has received it. So from 25th, be careful friends, from 25th the time begins. And if it is from 25th, the next would come to 24th of April, 25th of March 2021 to 25th of April 2021. Okay, so this is what it is. Now this is where the buck will stop. The 30 days gets over. The 30 days gets over from this date to this date. Did you all got this one? The 30 days is over from this date to this date. So therefore now what will happen? What will happen, students? So here 30 days is over. Nothing can be done in this context. But what otherwise can be done? Students, otherwise in this particular case, in this situation, the interest charges will begin from 24th of April. So can you see that? That is after the expiry of the 30 days period. So therefore in this case the interest will be from 25th of April to 24th of May. Same case, just always take this month, so that at least even though you do it in this particular way, till the time your hand is perfectly in line with this calculation, till that time you just keep on doing this long run approach, no harm. So if it is a part of month, because see what happens students in the month of July, can you see that July is not full? So there is a 25th of June to 24th of July, that is there. But when it comes to the month of July, then it is 25th of July to 29th of July, which they have mentioned it over here. And with 25th to 29th of July 2021, 1 month is the correct particular framework, and on that basis only the further calculation has to be determined. This is what I'm talking about, students. Very important one. Question number 258, students. All of you are going to read it, students. I'll just give you 5 minutes. Please go through the same quickly. Alright students, let's review back. So students, here, this particular question, read Prem. This is a wonderful question and the case study. Got to know what exactly has happened in this case study. 2 times this particular case study has been asked, and in both the times, examiner comment was that the candidates were unsuccessful in doing the interpretation of this particular case study. Did you understand this case study after reading this one? Very typical case study, students, it was. Very typical case study, students, this was. And what exactly is the typicalness of this case study? Let's have a look in this regard. So this is based on a Supreme Court judgment which got reversed. A Supreme Court judgment got reversed in this regard. So this was a case of Supreme Court in Vikrant Tyres Limited. The case of a Supreme Court in Vikrant Tyres Limited, students. What has happened was this, that students, there was an order that was being passed. There was an order, students, that was being passed. And this particular order, students, by the assessing officer, obviously. Here, there was an order, 143 order. Plus, students, there was a notice of demand. Notice of demand. Okay. Now, in this case, the assessee has paid the amount demanded. So the assessee has paid the amount demanded, students. Okay. Whatever was the amount that was being demanded, he made the payment. But he has filed the appeal. So in that situation, students, paid the amount and filed the appeal. So appeal was being filed. Before whom? The CIT appeals. Appeal was being filed, students, in this case before the CIT appeals. Okay. Now the CIT appeal gave the judgment, gave the decision in the favor of assessee. Now the moment the judgment came in the favor of the assessee, what happened? The moment the judgment came in the favor of the assessee, students, what happened? You should be aware of that. So in this particular case, the moment the judgment came in the favor of the assessee, in this case, what happened? You know, the refund was granted, obviously. Yes, Prem. Refund granted to the assessee. Now, after this, who becomes aggrieved party? Who becomes the aggrieved party? So, the aggrieved party, students, in this particular case was department. So, department filed the appeal before the ITAT. Now, here the ITAT, students, here the ITAT gave the decision. Gave the decision in the favor of whom? In the favor of the... In whose favor? In the favor of the department. The ITAT gave the decision in the favor of the department, and because it gave the decision in the favor of the department, do you know what happened? What happened? Now there is a demand that will arise. No, refund was granted, Prem. The refund was granted here. In consequence of the decision of the CIT appeal, because SSC won the case, the refund was granted. So the department filed the appeal before the ITAT, and thereafter he gave the decision in the favor of the department. Now, obviously, the demand, they raised the demand. So department here raised the demand. So they not only raised the demand, students, they also asked for the interest. Plus what? The interest. Now the period for which they have asked for the interest was from this till the date of payment. This was the period for which the interest was demanded. So we don't have to assume that refund is not given. We don't have to assume that it is refunded. Obviously, after you have won the case, you have to give the refund. Because obviously, the SSC has already paid the tax and the CIT appeal. So such thing has not occurred. It was given. In this case law also it was given. Have you copied up till here? Before I can tell you what was the situation now. Just copied on this one now here. And do let me know. Copy up till here, students, because this is the real game now, which is to be played. Prem, through with this one. So let's start with this analysis now. What do you think the period for which the interest was demanded, is it justified or not? Is it justified? The period for which the refund is demanded? And the Supreme Court said no. The Supreme Court said that the interest will arise only if the SSC is in default. The interest, students, will arise only if the SSC is in default. Do you agree or this or not? The interest will arise only if the SSC is in default. And please tell me over here, was the SSC was he Was the SSC anyway in default? Was the SSC in any way in default, students? Answer is no. Why? Because you demanded over here. You made the demand. I paid. You lost the case. I got the refund. Now you won the case with the ITAT. So you will raise a demand. And since now you will raise your demand, now from the date when the demand is raised, from that we will start calculating the 30 days period. And only when I don't pay, that the question of interest will arise. So for this period for which you are trying to extract the interest, the question that the Supreme Court asked was, where was any outstanding demand that ever existed during this particular period? So there was no demand that existed during this particular period, and therefore if there was no demand that ever existed during this particular period, where is the question of charging the interest for that particular period? Where is the question of charging the interest for that particular period? Because for that particular period there is no demand that has ever existed. Did you all got this one? So the Supreme Court said that since there is no demand that ever existed for this particular period for which you want to take the interest, therefore the thought or the demand for the interest itself is invalid. The demand for the interest itself is invalid, is what the Supreme Court said. The government got defeated in that judgment, and that is quite fair enough, isn't it? But the government felt bad about it. They felt sad. But as you know, students, the government does not remain sad for too long. They make themselves happy quickly. And how they make themselves happy quickly? They make the amendment and they become happy. So what is the amendment that they made? The amendment that they made was that now the original demand of notice, students, the original demand of notice which was given originally is deemed to what? Is deemed to be the original demand notice, students, is deemed to be in existence. Can you see that? The original demand notice, students, is deemed to be in existence. Now, if the original demand notice is deemed to be in existence, then what does it imply? Then now you tell me after the amendment. So this was the amendment. The original demand notice is deemed to be in existence. This is the amendment. And if it is deemed to be in existence, students, I think all of you are now aware that if it has to be deemed to be in existence, now can the department, or is the department justified to extract the interest from the date when they have granted the refund till the date when the SSC will make the payment of that particular tax in consequence of the ITAT decision? Or is the department justified to call for the demand? Call for what? The demand from the period when the refund was granted till the period when the SSC will make the payment of the tax in consequence of the ITAT decision. Are they justified? And the answer is yes. They are very much justified, students, in this particular case. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. And that exactly is the point. Students, tell me one thing. Let me ask you this question if you have understood it. For this period, if the demand is deemed to be in existence from this date, I want to ask you the question, for this particular period, students, students, can the department ask for interest? For this particular period, can the department ask for interest? What is your take on this? For this particular period, can the department ask for interest? Quickly, students. No. Why is it so? Because there is no outstanding liability. In fact, assessee has made the payment of tax. So already during that particular period, the money was with the government of India and not with the assessee. So therefore, where is the question? Where is the question of the assessee paying interest for that particular period? Where is the question of assessee paying interest for that particular period? I hope that all of you are clear with this for now. So this exactly is the game. So there are two questions back to back. So can you see this here? If you see, till the date of order of the CIT appeal granting the relief. So till the date of order means from the date when the AO passed the order till the date the CIT appeal gave me the refund. During that particular point of time, can the interest be charged even after as per the amendment? After the amendment, can the interest be charged? Answer is no, because for during this period, since answer is no. Why the answer is no? Because during this period, the money was with whom? With the department. Because during this period, the money was with the department. Okay. And what about the next period, students? Next period, from the date the order of CIT appeal, means by virtue of the order of CIT appeal, the assessee got the refund. By virtue of the order of the CIT appeal, the assessee got the refund till the tax is paid in consequence of the order of the ITAT. So for this particular period, whether the interest will be charged, and the answer is yes. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. So these are the two questions, 258 and 259. 258 and 259 is based on this two questions. Students, this is simple. I told you about the penalty part. Students. The same is what has been put up over here. The same is what is put up over here, students, and that exactly is the point. Did you all got this one, students? Will they refund with interest to the SSC? Are you talking about to the SSC? Answer is yes. Definitely. Now, students, the provision for bank guarantee, students, we'll read this one together. It's a simple one. So, last two questions, students, and then we are done. In fact, we'll do these two questions, students. Let me see. Students, you will read this question and then we'll do the next two questions, and we are about to complete this topic. Students. We'll be done with this. Question 261, quickly. Please read this one. So these are specific theory questions, students. Please read this one. Very important. Through with this, Prem. So first, what is the crux of the question? This one. First of all, if there is a provisional attachment to your property because some assessment is going on, then the assessee can clear that encumbrance of provisional attachment by furnishing the bank guarantee. The value of the bank guarantee should be equal to what? Equal to the fair value of the property. So if the bank guarantee is furnished, the AO cannot deny, the AO cannot refuse to accept the bank guarantee. Okay, and he has to revoke the provisional attachment order. Now the second question is also equally important. When the AO would invoke the bank guarantee, invoke means liquidate. When the AO will liquidate the bank guarantee, students, so here if you see in this context. So point number 2, the assessing officer can invoke the bank guarantee in the following 2 circumstances. First is failure to pay, where a notice of demand specifying the sum payable, means the reassessment which was pending, during which the provisional attachment was made of the property, that reassessment is over and the order is generated, notice of demand is served, and the assessee has failed to make the payment. In that particular case, that the assessing officer can invoke the bank guarantee. So in that case, the assessing officer can invoke the bank guarantee. Okay. Failure to renew. Renew means when the assessee fails to renew, because the bank guarantee is for a particular period, students. So what happens is that if supposingly the reassessment or the assessment proceedings is not over, and the bank guarantee period of expiry is only for that 15 days is left for expiry of the bank guarantee. So therefore in that situation the assessee needs to furnish a new bank guarantee, and if he does not furnish the new bank guarantee, then in that case just around 15 days before the expiry of the original bank guarantee, the assessing officer is having the power to liquidate the bank guarantee which was furnished by the assessee. Okay. So that is a core point. And the next question, students, is that the attachment of the foreign asset. Again a question. So what happens, students, is that, see, the tax recovery officers who are there in India, supposing, say for example, Vijay Mallya. Although Mr. Vijay Mallya was not a tax defaulter, see, these people are very smart, they know the law very well. He was a bank defaulter, he made the payment of taxes, and you can easily come to know why he was making the payment of taxes regularly, because of this reason which you will come to know now. So in this case, students, what happened was, which you will always appreciate in this regard, that here supposingly, just hypothetically, Mr. Vijay Mallya was the defaulter and he ran away to UK. The tax recovery officer can have the jurisdiction to collect the taxes only within India. Mr. Vijay Mallya is having the assets outside India also. But what? But the tax recovery officers in India, they don't have the power to attach the foreign assets and recover the money from that. That power, that Indian officers, how they do have the power, they will not have. So what the tax recovery officer will do, they will make a certificate. And the certificate so made will be given to the CBDT. Now the CBDT will then coordinate with the tax authorities in UK, Because students, in the DTAA there is an agreement whereby recovery of taxes is also facilitated. Recovery of taxes is also facilitated in the DTAA. And because the recovery of taxes is also facilitated in the DTAA, therefore the Indian CBDT will then give the certificate to the UK tax authority, and the UK tax authority, once they are convinced that yes, there is this person who is there, whose property is there in UK, he is a tax defaulter in India, and because there is a treaty between India and UK whereby the recovery of tax is also to be facilitated, then what the UK tax authority will do? They will attach the property, sell the property, and accordingly remit the money to the government of India. Remit the money to the government of India. By the way, students, this is also vice versa. Vice versa means supposingly there is some person in UK who is a defaulter of tax in UK. Who is a defaulter of tax in UK. And that person has got some assets in India. So what happens is that the UK tax authorities will then furnish a certificate to Indian tax authority, and based on those certificate, the Indian tax authority will accordingly attach the properties of that person in India, sell it off, and remit the money to the UK tax authority. So therefore, this recovery is facilitated in the DTAA itself. And that is the reason why you will come to know all these defaulters who ran away from the country, be it Mr. Walia or Mr. Modi or something of that sort. So all these persons were never a tax defaulters, because they knew that if they are a tax defaulters, then wherever they are, the government can start attaching their foreign assets as well. That sort of a power the government has. And this is what it is. Okay, so 262 is on respect of that. With that, now students, we'll do the last question of the day and we'll wrap it up this one. Read this question, students. So students, about the same thing that we discussed in the last to last question. So what you will say, that the assessing officer shall by an order in writing revoke the provisional attachment of the property made under section 281B in a case where the SSC furnishes a bank guarantee from a scheduled bank. So only at that particular point of time that the revocation of the provisional attachment will happen. By the way, students, are you aware why the provisional attachment is done? The provisional attachment is done because the department fears that, see, the pendency of the assessment that is taking place. Like for example, students, now we all know there is section 147 reassessment. Now whenever these big sections get invoked, so far as the assessments are concerned, whenever these big sections are invoked so far as the assessments are concerned, you will also appreciate the fact that in these particular cases, students, what happens? In all these particular cases, whenever the assessments are taking place, the AO come to know that the liability is going to be huge, massive, not only of the tax but also of the penalty, and he fears that once the order is generated, the SSC may run away or may go underground, or there could be any reason for which it becomes very difficult for the department to recover the taxes. So at that particular moment only, what the assessing officer does, after taking the approvals from the Commissioner of Income Tax and all, he attaches the property of the SSC. That attachment is a provisional attachment. Okay. Now, because there is a provisional attachment that takes place, therefore it gives lot of inconvenience to the SSC, who may feel that this is something very arbitrary. He says that I am a person with means. I can definitely make the payment of tax, even though it may be a huge liability, doesn't matter. But why you are putting me in inconvenience? Why you are putting me in inconvenience by attaching my property on a provisional basis? So the law says that fine, if the provisional attachment gives you that level of inconvenience, then do one thing: furnish a bank guarantee which is equal to the fair value of the property provisionally attached. So furnish the fair value, the provisional attachment will get revoked, and that exactly is the point. That exactly is the point. Did you all got this one, students? And this is what, students, the entire point is. As far as this is concerned, we are done with this. Now, students, dispute resolution, AAR, maybe towards the end we can just wrap it up. And as I told you, students, again I'm repeating this, the next lecture, which would be on Saturday, we will now be, students, going with our PGBP. So I'll just let you know the topics which would be there: PGBP, MAT, alternate tax regime, all the big practical question. Your marathon is done, Prem. Alternate tax regime. Thereafter, your the capital gains could be there, and the surrogate taxes. These are the things, and plus small topics, other small topics which will come in between. Okay. So by virtue of this, your entire computation of total income and other things would get revised. After that only, then, students, after the small topics, thereafter the last three topics I told you earlier, repeating it again: penalties. After that, trust taxation and TDS and TCS. This will be the last category of the question. This would be my last category of question. Okay, that would be only for 2 hours. Prem. Around 2 hours or so, that would be the length of the duration of lecture. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Fine. So, students, study hard, revise hard, students. Tomorrow would be the CA day, 1st of July, isn't it? So, in advance, congratulations to all of you, students. We'll try, Prem, putting it in night. We'll definitely try. So, congratulations, students, for the 74th Chartered Accountancy Day. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate to all of you for this noble profession. So at this particular point of time, students, you may think that I don't know what this thing is going to give it to us, because you are looking from the lens of an article. We are looking from the lens of the members. Believe me, at one point of time, we were also just like you. Uncertain future, don't know what is going to happen and all the stuff. But I can tell you that this particular degree by itself has the ability of turnaround in life. Has the ability of what? Turnarounds. So all the big turnarounds that take place, students. Other profession, I will not belittle anyone, but there is a standardized thing that take place. Getting up in the morning, going to the office, coming back to the home, sleeping again. Standardized thing. This is what I always felt, that the Chartered Accountancy course means not only now I can just tell about my own journey, but many journey which I've seen of my students only. The big turnarounds I've seen primarily. So this is what you should never lose hope. So when you are doing CA course, one thing you should always keep in mind: never lose hope. The better time is there very in near future. You just need to hang on. And in your present moment, whatever present moment that you are in, you have to give your best shot. That is a commitment that you have to make it with your own self. Give your best to the present, and I'm telling you, always have a hope, because this particular profession or the degree has the ability to do the turnarounds in the life. Okay, so that is what I will leave it to all of you. Once again, congratulations for the 74th Charter Accountancy Day. Okay, I'll see you then, students, soon. Not tomorrow, day after now. See you then, students. Take care. Good night.